So we come to the end of Held in God's Gaze. We've been discovering and exploring different saints, the chapters of this book, in dialogue with its authors, Jill Duff and Nicholas Heale. And our final chapter is about George Herbert. What has he meant in your life, George Herbert, this great Anglican saint and poet and thinker?
I remember when I was a little boy being in church and the whole building shaking as the organ pedals resonate through the entire space, and just being thrilled as the congregation sang with full and hearty voice those hymns by George Herbert, Let All the World in Every Corner Sing, My God and King, and others that are hymns we know really, really well. And as I grew up, I came to know George Herbert as a poet, and became aware of how sophisticated and thoughtful and measured, but also how discreet and how self-effacing his vision of the life of faith was, as it's expressed in his verse. But every time I read him, I'm taken back to that visceral memory of the freedom of the spirit as I experienced it in church as a tiny little kid. And so there's a sense for me that George Herbert helps me understand the whole of this tradition and all of these people that we've been reflecting on over the last few sessions as being people who talk a language that actually is profoundly accessible to us and plugs into our youngest and earliest memories of being people able to be awakened by the sense of wonder in the house of God. And that really is the purpose of the whole of the spiritual tradition and the purpose of all of the authors we've considered and looked at in the book. It's what it means to be held in God's gaze. And I really want to commend to people that it doesn't require us to be sophisticated. It doesn't require us to worry about whether we're on a slow table to take us right back to the very, very beginning of our reflections, that actually any single one of us can access this tradition by returning to that capacity for wonder that is instinctive to children, but which is often drummed out of us as we are told to grow up and be self-restrained. And it's that freedom and that exuberance and that openness of heart and of soul, which is what George Herbert kind of represents and embodies for me, as I remember where I come from, which helps me to know where I am continuing to go.
And I think that's so important, the accessibility of these great spiritual thinkers and writers. It's easy to think of them as a kind of spiritual elite who are somewhere way beyond us. But the capacity for wonder, wondering at the presence of God, is what makes them so accessible to us.
I think that's been a part of my journey with them, for not knowing them very well when I set out, is that they are friends. They do want to be accessible, and actually we can read their writings now and read them as we are, really. And
Jill, this longing for home.
I think that's a very strong image in Scripture. So for me, the idea of sort of Luke 15 of the prodigal son, longing for home. I think that sense of longing for home is so strong in the heart of God that it's forcing its way into our culture. That home is such a strong image, isn't it? We go to IKEA and we buy our happier life at home, or we buy our forever home. And I think there's something in the heart of God. He's longing for us to come back home. And I do think these saints enable a roadmap on the journey, accompanies on the journey, not on the slow table putting you down, but inviting you sort of childlike to step in. And I think that for me that's been a beautiful part of the journey. I mean, I came to faith from not from a Christian background, but what I remember the very first moment I was in the reception class, and there's literally pictures of Jesus on the wall, and I started to dream about him. And so I think that recovering that childlike sense of dreams and imagination and just hearing God as we are now, and it's not a big deal.
Word, Hyref,
there is, yes. There isn't a translation into English because it almost means nostalgic longing for home. And I think whether we have faith or whether that's not part of our own story, I think we all have a sense of longing for home. And as a Christian, I would say that Jesus he's got ahead to prepare a place for us in home. And we can, by the Spirit, have like tasters of that home now.
And we're going to end up with a bit of George Herbert in a minute. But Bishop, we've reached the end of the exploration of this book. Obviously, we want people to buy it and read it, but how else can they carry on with this journey? Have you got any tips?
So we've given you some fun homework at the very end of the book.
I have to say, I've never found homework fun.
Oh, okay, so it's the wrong word for you then, isn't it? Sorry.
Home should not be a place of work. I would abolish homework.
We've got theological disagreement. Right, we've done so
we've got
well.
Discussion pointers.
We've got a discussion point at this end. But what I'd really hope at the end of the book, there's a very last section where just actually for readers to invite the Spirit to unlock maybe songs or poetry or art or music or just writing that would speak to them of how they've encountered the journey with the saints. Maybe there's some saints that have particularly warmed their hearts or been drawn to or have helped them in times of pain. What does it look like to respond and ask the Spirit to help your writing or help your artistic way forward. So just and be in touch with us and let us know what you see and hear, because there's literally a great cloud of witnesses cheering us on. Yes. They are more real than what we see.
And they're calling us home.
And they are absolutely calling us home to be held in God's gaze.
That's our message. Let's end with George Herbert, shall we?
Let all the world in every corner sing, my God and King. The heavens are not too high, his praise may thither fly. The earth is not too low, his praises there may grow. Let all the world in every corner sing, my God and King. The church with psalms must shout, no door can keep them out. But above all the heart must bear the longest part. Let all the world in every corner sing, my God and King.
Thank you so much, and thank you for watching these videos, and I hope you enjoy the book and engaging with it.